My name is Becca Radomski-Bish, and I was the project leader for NestQuest Go out of the Cornell Lab of Ornithology. And I am happy to report that this project wrapped up in 2025. At the Cornell Lab of Ornithology, we stored nest record cards, 4x6 cards that you would get at the grocery store that allowed people to enter data on nesting birds. These data were incredibly valuable, but as many of you can imagine, in sort of the hard copy form, we couldn't really analyze the data. And there is a lot that we need to learn about what is happening with birds. This work could not have been possible without an immense amount of support. We had lots and lots of Cornell students over the past 5.5 years. We had volunteers come in and help to sort the cards that had been stored at the lab for many, many years and organize them by species and data that was valuable and maybe data that we couldn't quite use. And then we would upload those cards into Zooniverse, and thanks to all of you, would help transcribe that data into a database that we could then import into NestWatch, which is our ongoing bird monitoring tool. There were so many really interesting things that came out of this project. We had the discovery of an extinct species card, the Bachman's warbler, which we found in our collection, and that was really exciting. It was perhaps one of the last records ever of this particular bird nesting. We also had some really interesting famous names come up in terms of the transcribers who had actually submitted these cards. Aldo Leopold's brother, Frederick, was an avid nest watcher and submitted many, many cards. Barbara Kingsolver's parents had actually submitted cards to us. And perhaps the most famous, who became famous, I should say, with all of us, our Zooniverse transcribers, was Larry H. Walkinshaw, who was a very prolific follower of the sandhill cranes, wrote many texts over his time, and submitted literally thousands and thousands of nest record cards to our collection. Now, these cards had been used on and off over the past 20 or 30 years in various research, thanks to people at the Cornell Lab who really preserved these cards and kept them in very good state. But as you can imagine, sending images or data from a handful of cards is not a big deal. But when you want to do mass analysis, which is where we're leaning towards now with our bird conservation research, you really, really need to have all of the species in one database. And so thanks again to Zooniverse, we were allowed to do that. We had more than 270,000 cards that we uploaded into Zooniverse. We thought this project would take somewhere between 10 to 11 years, and we were able to finish it in about 5.5 years. And I am happy to, and quite surprised to report that we had a handful, about 10 or 11 people, that actually transcribed more than 100,000 nest records over the time and lifespan of this project. Incredible devotion, incredible commitment to helping to preserve bird conservation data that we're only beginning to crack the code on what it can tell us. We anticipate many, many, many researchers using this database over the next several decades to begin to understand in a more deep and refined way how nesting birds have been impacted. I got several comments towards the end of the project. Is it really over? Can you find some more cards? People just wanted to continue to help support us, which is incredibly endearing. But yes, indeed, NestQuest Go has come to an end, and we are indebted to the Zooniverse community and all of the many students and volunteers and all of the people that preserved this historic data so that we can now say we know a lot more about birds and how they have fared over the past several decades.